are rolling. All right, so we got my boy Devin McCourty, the other half, the better half
The
of
better half.
the better half of the McCourty twins. He's honest to God one of my favorite humans on earth. He's an awesome, awesome human being. I've never heard a human talk badly about the McCourty brothers. They're just tremendous people. I can't say enough good things about them. They do tons of stuff for the community. They do tons of stuff for their friends. They do tons of stuff for their families. I mean, the more you know these guys, the more you like them. You literally can't help but fall in love with these guys. They're the best people on earth. I'll stand behind that. I really mean that.
Man,
So
I appreciate that. That's one hell of an intro.
yeah. Honest to God, dude, I'm so honored to have you on the show.
Nah,
We're really. I mean, I've told Brooker all about you, and he's met you obviously, but like all the personal stuff that you and I have talked about, I've told him some of it, and he's like, dude, we got to get him on here. So
yeah,
like,
man.
yeah,
Definitely,
bro.
man. It's been a fun 5 or 6 years just getting to know you and getting after it, training and doing all of that. But like always, we could finish working out for probably about hour and a half, 2 hours, but it's usually 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So always good times.
Yeah. So I can't believe it's been 5 or 6 years. I don't even know how long. Easily 5 years that we've
Yeah.
been training together, but our workouts could likely go an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I mean, Dev and I we just get talking. And before you know it, I think last week he was there a couple of times for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Or you, Devin, man. I feel sorry for you. How did that start? How did you meet up?
It's kind of crazy because I was going to Arizona in the off season, usually to train, and then got married, having kids, and it was just too hectic to go to Arizona, especially in July. My wife and the kids, they just wasn't for it. So I was actually about to start working out at another place called Parabolic, and then Jason and myself kind of had a falling out with an employee there, and that kind of all blew up. And my marketing guy, I forgot who he heard about Freak Strength from, but he told us, I want to say it was Jay that called Mike, talked to him, and then we just was like, all right, let's go. Drove out to Oakland, did a session. By the time we finished the warm up, I was like dead tired from all of the like, and it wasn't that it was like so much work. It was just work with a lot of muscles and stuff that we don't usually use. And I would say from right there, we kind of knew that's what we needed. I want to say that was probably about year 6 of our career or whatever. So it was like kind of we were getting older, not fully old yet, but felt like that was the direction we needed to move to kind of prolong our careers and still be good, but also staying injury free.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's how we started syncing up is a really funny story. And then but we won't go into that. What I really want to go into what I really want to go into is the thing you and I always talk about, and I want to get right into it, is your upbringing and how you were able to turn out how you are, even with the environmental factors contributing to your upbringing and shaping you as a person. There are people that end up on one side of the spectrum and people that end up on the other side of the spectrum. So if you're comfortable with that, dude, like go into who you were as a kid, how you grew up, like your family life. I'd love to hear all about it.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because obviously, what you guys do when you're training, you usually training a lot of kids, high school kids, middle school kids going into high school, college athletes. And I also try to do a ton of work of helping out the youth. And it always kind of reminds me, even when I, first started dating my wife, she would always say to me, like, you got to realize, like, I know you made it and like, I truly believe in like the things I believe in. And she'll be like, but that's not the majority. Like you making it is not like the norm. But I think, growing up how I grew up in Nye, New York, 9 closet apartments. And I had a single mom. My dad passed away when we were about 2.5, almost 3 years old. He had a asthma attack that led to a heart attack. And from there on out, like my mom, she's like the person that I look to for everything because sacrifice, toughness, discipline. Like she instilled all of that. And when we were 5 years old, she got hurt on her job. She got into a car accident that caused her, till this day, about 12 or 13 knee surgeries. And from there on, we collected disability. So that was kind of a pay cut for my mom, of having to go on disability and, not being able to work extra hours, earn more money, and really just, she had already at that time been at her job for almost 20 years. So, and I was only 5 years old. So in the future going forward, her pay would increase. But that kind of changed the dynamics of our life. And I think from there, when you lose your father, for me, where we grew up, like I had an older brother, but I think the best thing my mom did was she never made him like a father figure. Like he was always my older brother. Like my mom tell me I can't wear a do-rag to school. I wear a do-rag and Jay misses the bus. So she drops him off at school and I'm getting off the bus with my do-rag on. And I come home, my older brother grabs me right away. And he's like, yo, mommy knows you had the do-rag on. Do not lie. And I think like that right there explains like our relationship. Like he's 15 years older than me, but like he never had to assume a dad role. Like he was just a big brother. But growing up, like I never had like a true father figure that I would say that I was around and be like, man, like if I could just be a little bit like this person. And, I think for me growing up, a lot of what I saw from males, I used to always be like, man, like I see that path, like I don't want to take that path, whether it was, people in my life being addicted to drugs or drug dealing or just doing wrong things. I would just be like, man, like that's not what I want. And like I felt like I got fortunate. I was very fortunate because I had a twin brother. So like even times that I slipped up and wanted to do the wrong thing, he was like, nah. And it was usually me, not him. He was like always wanting to do the right thing. But it was just, I think because we had each other, we never kind of wandered and wanted to do other stuff. We wanted to compete in sports. My mom was on us about grades. So like we always had someone to look at and be like, I don't have to kind of travel this path alone. Like this guy next to me is doing it exactly the same way I am. And I think because of that, we never thought about, what was going on around us. Like I look back now and like everyone started smoking when we were like freshmen in high school. Like that took off 8th grade to 9th grade year. We really didn't. And in high school, everybody started drinking. We didn't really drink. And I think a lot of it had to do with just having each other and not feeling like that peer pressure. Like, man, like I got to do what my friends do. Because it was like, man, if Jay's not doing it, or if he's like, man, if Dev's not doing it, then that's not good for us. So I think that was a huge part. My mom, really the biggest blessing was her getting hurt on her job, because when she got hurt, it kind of, after school, you couldn't get in any trouble, because if we like try to get off at another bus stop and then walk home, by the time you walked in the door, there was no cell phones back then. Well, there was. We didn't have one. And my mom was like, about 45 minutes late, like, where you been? And like, you always had to have a story ready and something to tell her. So her getting hurt on her job was a blessing for us, just to do the right things. And she supported us in everything we've ever done. So I guess that would be my little journey from childhood in a nutshell.
Awesome. It's dude, I love hearing about that. Especially, I mean, you and I talk about all the kids that I train and all the different personalities and the demographics that'll end up coming in. And it's just so wild to me how and why some people go down one path versus the other. Like the environmental factors were still there for you. And, you didn't have the adult male figure in your life to look up to, right? You didn't have that father figure, which is a huge key in emotional and psychological development, and like how to lead, how to treat anyone. And you turned out like such an awesome dude. And then even with that, do you want to go into your story with St. Joe's as well? Like how you ended up going to St. Joe's and got through St. Joe's?
Yeah, man. And like you just said, like we always talk about this, because like you'll have kids come in the gym and I'm always blown away. It's just about being in a locker room perspective. Like you could have a perspective. It could be somebody else in the gym that'll have one, and then I could have, and like we'll sit there and we'll be like, man, everybody's perspective makes sense because of how they grew up, what they've experienced. So it's always interesting talking about this, especially when people, like you have 2 people or 3 or 4 people that have respect for each other to at least just listen. So For me, it was cool because like I was gonna say it was like when I was in 7th grade or 8th grade, I played in a basketball spring league in Spring Valley, New York, and I was coached by Reginald St. Rose, who was a teacher at St. Joe's, and he coached the freshman basketball team. And he was like, "Man, you guys should come to St. Joe's. You want to check it out." It was 7th grade, and I was like, "All right." And that next year, 2 guys that were older than me at Chestnut Ridge Middle School, Ron Giroux and Stanley Julian, went to St. Joe's. And I remember talking to them, and they were like, "Yeah, man, like St. Joe's is great." And then a set of twins that lived around the corner from us that I looked up to a ton. They went to St. Joe's after their freshman years, and so now I'm looking. I tell my mom, we're in 8th grade. I'm like, "Ma, I want to go to St. Joe's." Like I don't know much about it, but like there was 4 people now that I kind of looked up to that I knew were like good people. Like they wanted to excel in sports. Like that's what they cared about. And my mom was like, "All right, we'll go check it out." Went to the open house. Actually spend the day with a night. Me, Jay, and Andrew Giuliani, all there spending the day at St. Joe's. We end up going to St. Joe's, fill out the whole financial aid. So basically, you know, St. Joe's doesn't do athletic scholarships. Like everything is done through financial aid. So your income, with my mom's income, we basically were 2 for 1. We got half off with the money she made for both of us to go there. And we're going there, and I want to say it was like our junior year. Now we've actually kind of made a name for ourselves. You know, I started a couple games as a sophomore. Jay played a little bit. Jay started some games in basketball as a sophomore, whereas I started in football. And now we're kind of going in our junior year, and my mom comes up to us and she's like, "I'm not sure if this is going to work out another year." Because for anybody that doesn't know, like Catholic schools they go up each year you go there, the tuition goes up. And she's like, "I'm not sure we're going to be able to afford this." And I remember like selfishly, like, what's she talking about? Like, we got to afford it. And also being old enough as a junior in high school to realize like it kind of is what it is. Like, if we can't afford it, then I'm not mad at it. It's just, you know what I mean? And my mom was like, we started looking at, you know, Clarkstown North, trying to go to different high schools in the county, just because we knew we didn't want to go to Spring Valley at the time. We just didn't think that was best for us. And I remember like maybe a week later, my mom comes up to us and she's like, "Don't worry about it. I figured it out." And we're like, "Okay, like, all right, cool." And we didn't think about it. You know, we finished our junior and senior year, get a scholarship to Rutgers, because that was something we promised her. We said, "You pay to go, we pay to go to high school. We'll make sure that we don't pay for college. We'll academics, athletics, like we'll do it." And all through high school, we had over a 90 grade point average. And then as we're going into Rutgers, my mom's like, "Yeah, I had to file for bankruptcy." And then it was like, she took everything she had and just put it into St. Joe's, and basically just took everything, her life savings, and invested it in us, not knowing. And like, it's easy now for people to be like, "Well, she had, you know, NFL," but like, we went to high school 5'7", 120 pounds. Like nobody was like, "Man, those 2 guys will be professional athletes someday." She just believed in us, and like I said earlier, all she was about was sacrifice. I remember she told me when I was young, kids don't ask to be brought in this world. Parents bring them in, and it's our job to do whatever it takes to make sure that they have what they need. And that's what she did for us. So that was how we got through St. Joe's to Rutgers, then eventually into the NFL.
Wow.
Yeah, bro, dude, no bullshit, dude. I got chills during that story. Like it's so the path that this dude went through is absolutely incredible. And then again, while he's no matter what, it wasn't easy. Like it wasn't easy for them coming up. I mean, then they finished St. Joe's, or they were on the verge of finishing St. Joe's. And then they were on the verge of being torn apart again because no one wanted Dev.
Yeah. And like I said, like we had those 2 older twins, they were 2 years older. So when they were seniors, I was fully a part of like the recruiting and everything going on. And it was like, man, like it's hard, like being twins and same position kind of in football and basketball. They were like, a lot of schools are like, man, we could take one, but we can't take the other. So like mentally, me and Jay was like, dang, like that's what we're gonna have to do, man. Like eventually, we're not gonna be able to go to school together. And so that was our sophomore year when they left school. So at that time, we didn't have nobody recruiting us. At that time, we were probably 135. As we go through, Jay starts playing more as a junior, but we had the guy that I said left Chestnut Ridge, Ron Giroux, who was absolute animal in high school. He had back-to-back 1,800-yard seasons, always in the county with him and Joe Sandberg, like the top rushers on my sophomore and junior year. And he leaves, after his senior year, and now Jay becomes the guy at tailback. I think he averaged like 11 yards a carry. He had games where he had like 3 carries, 100 and something yards, and 3 touchdowns, like just ridiculous stats. And so maybe it was like late October, he gets offered by Rutgers. And then maybe 2-3 weeks later, Boston College offers. Then Kent State offers. And my senior year, I had got hurt. I had a hip flexor injury, so I missed the first 3 games. So I'm like, dang, like J-Mac, like, all right, he's got some offers. Oh, and before this, the summer before our senior year, we both had got offered from New Hampshire. So we were like, man, like it was looking like, and at this time, we had guys in the county like Cushion, Jim Dre, everybody at Don Bosco. It felt like they had already had at least 10 to 20 offers going into our senior year. And so like, I'm like, dang, Jay's about to take off. Like those people, like, all right, as soon as I get back, I'm going to be the same way. First game back, I have a pick 6. So I'm like, all right, crickets. Not one offer comes in. Nobody offers. And so we wrap up our senior year, and Jay now, like actual contenders, has Kent State, Boston College, Rutgers, and then if you want to add New Hampshire, because we both had New Hampshire, and like I'm still only with New Hampshire. So like at the end of the year, we went old school, borrowed a neighbor's VCR, hooked up to 2 VCRs, and we're making highlight tapes, making our very own highlight tape. I send my highlight tape out to a bunch of schools in the MAC, like Miami of Ohio. I had a friend from NIAG that was at Toledo. So I'm starting to send it to schools like that. Like, all right, like Rutgers, Big East, I guess that's a little over my head. Like I could play in the MAC. I still remember Miami of Ohio was the only team that responded. They wrote a letter back like, we evaluated and watched your film, but sorry, at the time, we don't have a scholarship offer from you. Boston College came to my house, and they didn't let me sit in on the meeting. Like we lived in a trailer park. So we were in a flat 1-floor apartment, whatever you want to call it. And so our living room was right here, bedroom next to it, and mom's bedroom was at the end of the hall, basically. So like my wall of my bed, like I could hear the whole conversation. And Rutgers comes, and Rutgers at that time didn't offer me, but they were like, yeah, like we're recruiting you though. We got you in the process. We definitely want you in on the meeting. Smart by Shannon. Shannon also had twins. So I think he knew like the worst thing you want to do is just divide us. And so December hits, first week in December, we go to Rutgers. At the end of the trip, Rutgers offers me, sit in Shannon's office. He was like, we want to offer you a full scholarship. So on the way home, I'm telling my mom, I'm not going there. I was like, there's no way I'm going to Rutgers. They literally just offered me to see if Jay would commit right there. Like they were trying to see if, and like I'm kind of hot about it. Like there's no way I'm not going there. And kind of by Sunday night, my mom was like, you just got to realize like if this is your opportunity, then that's your opportunity. Like it doesn't matter how you get in. She was like, shoot, in high school, you played varsity before Jay played varsity. He didn't complain that you played before him. In basketball, he played before you. She was like, it's always gone back and forth between you two of how you've helped each other out. You can't go by that. So by Monday night, I had committed to Rutgers. And I'm like, well, Shiano's going to be sick because Jay didn't commit yet. He had a trip to Boston College next weekend. So I was like, man, they might end up with the one guy they didn't want. I commit, and Jay goes to BC, really doesn't like it. So he commits the next week. We go down to Rutgers, and I don't want to go on too long, but we get to Rutgers. I was right. They didn't want me. They wanted me. We get there the first day, they line you up. Like you sit in our defensive room, defensive back meeting. Jay's a third string corner, true freshman, third string corner. I am the 6th string safety. I am in the back of the room. It's me and like 2 older walk-ons. Like we got like the 3 of us have 4th, 5th, and 6th string. Like whatever day you want to say, one will go with the 4s, then 5. Like that's how it worked. And I remember sitting there like, dang, I blew it. Like I need to get out of here and redshirt my freshman year. Then the spring of my freshman year, I played really well in spring ball. DB coach, Coach Demo, probably one of the best people I've ever been around. Didn't care about how you got there. He played the best players, and that's all he talked about. And I remember we had an older guy that was hurt, so I was actually the 3rd string safety that spring. And I moved up to 2nd string because of injuries. And when we left, he said, "Man, I'm telling you right now, you competed, you played your butt off. You had a really good spring. I look forward to your training camp." So I'm hyped now. Like I'm the last guy in there. Now all of a sudden I'm about to go in as a true freshman and be a backup safety. Come back to training camp, I'm 3rd string. I'm like, injuries. You know, you're young. You didn't get that. Like, what do you mean? Like he missed it. I moved up. Like it is what it is. I remember that week I called my mom and was like, "Ma, call New Hampshire, call Delaware." I really called all of the Atlantic 10 schools that kind of semi-recruited me, never offered because I was a tweener between D1 and D1 AA. And we were preparing to tell Shannon that we wanted to transfer. And that next week, the guy that was in front of me got hurt. I moved up to 2nd string. And, you know, once I was 2nd string, I just left it and was on special teams. And kind of the rest was history from then on out at Rutgers.
Yeah, bro.
I was that close to being with you at UDale.
Well, by then I was already out.
Yeah, you're right.
Hopefully you weren't with me at Willie P by that point.
Yeah. I would have been looking for a new profession.
How insane is that story? I mean,
Yeah,
this is a guy.
Sure.
So for people who may not know who Devin McCourty is, 1st round draft pick, 2 huge contracts. He's arguably top 5 safety in the NFL since he's been a safety, right? Is that fair to say? I mean,
yeah, my opinion.
I mean, since he's been a safety, this guy has been one of the safeties. And how many Super Bowl appearances have you had?
5. 1,
5
been there 5 times.
I mean, you can't. There's no one better than this. And let me just say to all the coaches that recruited your brother and didn't recruit you, morons. Like, you're identical twins that grew up in the same exact environment, in the same exact broke environment, so no one got any more work than the other. There was no money to have more for one than the other. Like, you guys had the same exact thing going on. Same DNA, same environmental factors. How could you not recruit both of them? Are you that friggin' stupid?
That's why we ended up at Rutgers, because the guy that was with us at St. Joe's, Ron Giroux, he actually went to Rutgers. So he played as a true freshman. And Shannon was like, what's up with these guys? Like, why is Jay better than Dev? Like, and Ron was like, he's not. He was like, bro, he was like, I play with them. He's like, they're the same. He was like, Jay played running back and a wing T offense. So, like, that was what he was good at. He was like, but I'm telling you, like, they are the same. And that's the only reason. Like, him playing with us, telling the coach trusting him and him saying they're the same is the only reason we both ended up at Rutgers. I wasn't even top 100 in the state. Like, when they did all of that, I wasn't top 100. That's why I tell kids all the time. And, like, I truly do. I was a late bloomer. Like, my high school, like, it wasn't like people was like, man, like, they overlooked me or like no, like, overall, if you watch my body of work, it was okay. Like, it wasn't, you know what I mean? Me and Logan Ryan, we had this conversation. He's about 4 years younger than me. And we was in the league and we were in New England together. And he was like, bro, I know what it is. Like, I peaked in high school. He was like, my best years were in high school. I was a 4-star recruiter. He was like, Dev, you did it right. Like, he was like, you sucked in high school. And you just kept getting better, kept getting better. He was like, so, like, you peaked in the NFL. Like, you playing your best football ever. And we just was dying laughing. So, like, but I tell kids, I'm like, you can't be so discouraged because it doesn't work out the way maybe for me, it was a twin brother. It didn't work out the same for me as it did for my twin brother. But, like, all of your friends, some of your friends might be the guy with 40 offers, or, you know, the guy that the dream school you wanted, they want him and not you. But like, you just got to go and outwork everybody. And like, that's what I did. Like when we got to Rutgers, it was me, Jay, and Taekwondo Underwood, all little dudes, small frames. Like we would get spring break, we wouldn't go anywhere. We would stay on campus, work out every day with the strength and conditioning coaches. Winter break, summer break, we get 2 weeks home. We go home for a week or 4 or 5 days, and then we go right back and work out. Like we knew, like if we wanted to have any chance of in the NFL, we had to do all those things. So to me, that was the difference of, because when we was at Rutgers, we had a lot of talent, but not everybody, I think, believed that they could make it in the NFL, because it wasn't as popular as it is now, because we had that big influx of guys that hit the league. We just had guys that wanted to work.
So can you describe that lineup of guys that were on your Rutgers team that ended up getting drafted and ended up playing the NFL, and how long they did it? And also give props to how good your record was and everything, because people don't realize it.
Yeah, like when we were at Rutgers, like everybody that committed to Rutgers that played high school football in Jersey, like you were idiots. Like, I remember being a Governor's Bowl, and we were there with like some of the, obviously the best players in Jersey, and like we had guys going to Miami. Jonathan Casillas went to Wisconsin. Rutgers blew that one though; they didn't offer him. But the rest of those guys, they were like, "Bro, you going to Rutgers? Man, y'all tripping! Like that is bad." And next thing you know, I still remember you getting Facebook messages from some of those guys like, "Hey man, can you tell Coach Susan to call me? I want to transfer back home." Because like that's what we kind of did there. Like we get there, Brian Leonard is a junior, I think. Brian Leonard's a junior. He ends up getting drafted in the second round, plays 8 years in the NFL. Then obviously, probably the best player in Rutgers history, especially modern day, Ray Rice. Ray Rice is a 3-star recruit, second round draft pick, 8 years in NFL, Pro Bowls, all pros, like Super Bowl champ. Jeremy Zuttah is a 3rd round draft pick. I think he went like 8 or 9 years in the NFL playing on the offensive line. We had Kenny Britt, 1st round draft pick, 8 years. Anthony Davis, another 1st round draft pick. Me, a 1st round draft pick. I'm in 11 years. I think AD played 7 years, and he retired early because of concussions. Could have played longer. J Mac, 6th round draft pick, year 12. Taekwondo Underwood, 7th round, 6 years. Courtney Green, 7th round, 4 years. Jamal Westerman, undrafted, 5 years. Then went to Canada and led Canada in sacks. Now we got the younger guys from us too. Logan Ryan, Deron Harmon, Muhammad Sanu was a young boy my senior year. And I'm still missing a couple guys. I know it, but we just had so many. Leonte Carew was a 3rd round draft pick, and he was there kind of when Rutgers was struggling a little bit, but like he was a stud at Rutgers. And we still had some other guys. Like we had a guy, Tim Brown. If he wasn't like so little, he was like 5'6", 150. But he was a dog at Rutgers. We just was, you know, Mike Till was a 6th round draft pick on that team. We just had so many guys. We had guys, and I think the biggest thing for like a lot of the guys that played a long time, like myself and Jay, Taekwondo, like we saw guys that like no one knew, like a guy like Manny Collins, Derek Roberson, Joe Porters. These guys were like guys that came to Rutgers when they were really bad. Like we got there when they were bad. They went there when they were like 1-11, really bad, and they just got better and better, and ended up on NFL rosters as undrafted free agents, earning spots. And I remember sitting there and like we work out with these guys. We were learning from them. And when we saw them make it, we were like, hey man, like we could go play in the NFL. Like I know we have Rutgers. It's not like at that time people were talking about Rutgers was 120 out of 120 college. Like they were the worst college football team. And we're like, these dudes made it, and they would come back to school and they'd be like, bro, y'all can play in this league, man. Trust me. And I think that's really what motivated us to get there and try to win. Oh, we had a guy, Darnell Stapleton, played with the Pittsburgh Steelers, won a Super Bowl with them with Big Ben. So we've had a lot of guys, and a lot of those guys now are back coaching at Rutgers. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this and you're from Jersey and you're in high school, bro, go to Rutgers. Put Rutgers back on the map. Stop going to Michigan and Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, so you could say what you want about Shiano, but that dude knew how to identify talent, and if he believes in you, shit, it just may work out.
You
Or
just got to deal
even
with him.
even if
A
he
little
yeah,
crazy.
even if he doesn't believe in you, just like with you, but he'll take a chance because of your
He'll
brother.
take
It just may work out.
Exactly.
So now you're in the league. You're in the league for 11 years now. This is your 11th year,
Yeah.
going into your
Yep.
11th year. And what was your biggest, like, holy shit, this is different moment? Like, what was that moment that was like, whoa, how did I get here? Like, this is just completely
Yeah.
different.
I had a couple too. So I had an advantage because Jay comes out the year before me because I redshirted, 6th-round draft pick, goes to Tennessee. And you talk about crazy. Like, I remember watching the draft that weekend and, like, we just sitting around. It's like my mom stopped watching the draft, and, like, the feeling of, like, when we saw he didn't get announced because he went so late. His name just scrolled across the bottom of the ticker. 6th round, 200, 30th pick in the 6th round, 203rd pick, Jason, and we're like, oh, yo, like how crazy it was.
Yeah.
And I remember all throughout my senior year, he texted me like, yo, the league is like this. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. Send me $500 though. So like, I had this whole thought process of like, okay, when I get to the league, they don't wear pants. Then I get to New England, and Shiano is good friends with Coach Belichick. So we used to always have to hear all of these New England stories over. This is what they tell them in New England. So like, when I got ready for the draft, I was like, please don't let me go to New England. Because I was just like, I don't want to go through like how hard Shiano was. Like at that time, this is my thinking. Like, I don't want to go through that again. Sure enough, I get drafted by them. And I would say one of the first moments I had was actually before I even got there, before the draft. Coach Belichick's son, Steve Belichick, played lacrosse at Rutgers, and he came in the spring to visit Steve. And I was actually flying out to Nashville to go hang with Jay at this time. Now, I finished the combine, pro day was all of that, all finished. I was just going to hang with Jay. And I get a call from somebody over at Rutgers, and they're like, hey, Coach Belichick's here, and he wants to meet with you. I was like, man, I got a flight. Like I was like, I got a flight in like 2 hours. Like I like this, you know what I mean? Because at that time, like that's not how things work. So I called my agent and I'm like, hey, Coach Belichick's at Rutgers. He wants to meet with me. Like, is that allowed? Like, should I do that? Should I not do that? And he was like, man, I'll pay for you to get another flight. Like, you got to go to the meeting. So I go to the meeting and we're in a little small office, an hour. Like this is the longest hour because we're literally, this dude's sitting there, he has a clicker and we're watching film and he'll play. We'll watch the play. He'll pause and he'll go, what do you think you could have done better? So I'm like, oh, I could have done this better. Play. He'll play the next play. He like, why? Like it might look something like it might. I don't know what. He's like, what happened here? So like I'm explaining. I'm like, oh, on this, our DN stunts in here, so I have to be aggressive here. And I'm like, this was kind of the whole of the defense. And like, so I would give this long-winded because like right now I'm like, bro, this is Bill Belichick. Like, tell him everything you possibly know about one play. So I'm just going on, and this dude would be like, okay, play. And just play. We did that for an hour straight.
Covered in sweat.
Bro, called my agent on the way to the airport, and he was like, how was it? I was like, no idea, bro. No idea. And it wasn't until like probably 5 or 6 years into my NFL career, he did an interview, and he said, I was one of the smartest players he ever interviewed coming out of the draft. He was like, it was me, I think Ed Reed, and Ray Lewis. And somebody, they asked me, I was like, I'm happy you said that because I said until this day, I still didn't know how that meeting. So I would say right there, I was like, man, like this is different. That and then the first time the vets came to OTA spring practices and I went against Tom and Randy Moss. And then my first ever game, I lined up on Terrell Owens. First play of the game, they threw a 40 or 50-yard bomb on me, and I broke up the pass. And I truly believe if he catches that, my career is probably a wrap. Probably like, well, this dude's a bust. But I break up the pass, and I think those were like 3 of the moments I'll never forget. Just like 3 Hall of Famers, just in like huge moments of my career. Really 4 when you count Bill, Randy, Tom, and T.O. Like, you just can't write it up better than that.
That is so intense.
Insane.
That is.
And also, I mean, you've had just this massively long career, which is completely unheard of. I mean, I'm not massively clued up about NFL, but I know that the average career is somewhere between 3 and 5 years, I guess, maybe less for most people. I mean, how have you managed to sustain this for so long? You know, especially considering, like you said, that back when you was younger, you wasn't so physically gifted.
Yeah, man, I think it was just realizing when I did start to like work out and work on my body, I was kind of amazed by like just the changes and transformation my body went through. So just coming into college, 155 pounds, 50 pounds, and then I leave like 195. And it was just from like working out. Like when I was younger, I was stupid. I would be like, man, I'm not working out. I can't mess up my basket. I can't mess up my jump shot. And I still couldn't shoot. So it was just like, when I actually did work out, my body, it just transformed. Like I was able to get faster and stronger. And then once I got into the NFL, I remember we had an assistant strength and conditioning coach. He was with the Colts for a couple of years, and he would always tell us like, man, like how we train here is great for college, but when you get to the league, it's all about making it through 16 games. He was like, everything you do is to make it through 16 games. Like that has to be your focus. And when I got to the league, that's exactly what I did. The biggest reason I think I'm able to sustain being healthy, and one is just God-given ability, and you know, God keeping me healthy. And then 2 is just following veterans. Like I got to New England. Kevin Falk played 14 years at running back in New England, and Kev would get in the sauna every day. I hate the sauna. I got in the sauna every day with him. He get some days he do hot tub, cold tub contrast. So I did hot tub, cold tub. Like I just followed what he did. And then there was 2 other safeties, James Sanders and Brandon Merriweather. I would work out with them. I would just do with all of these guys that like after I was around for a couple of weeks, I'm like, all right, these are the leaders, these guys that play. I would just follow them. I would just do what they did. And back when I was playing, like going in the training rooms, like you didn't do that. Like you avoided the trainer. I remember going in there, and at the time, like Fred Taylor, Jacksonville legend, finished his career last couple of years in New England. And he'd be like, yo, but what you doing in here? And I'm like, nothing, bro. I'm just walking in, man. Like you just, the first time I went in the training room my rookie year was week 4. That was the first time I had went in the training room at all. And I went in for like a week. Something was bothering me. And then it felt better. I stopped going in. So like nowadays, you know, teams preach going to training room, get extra work. But like back in like 2010, it wasn't like that. So I just always try to learn from those older guys and then become a pro doing that. Then Vince Wilfork started showing me things, getting in salt baths at the end of the week to try to get like, then I started, instead of going, I used to get a massage 1 day a week, probably like the first half of my rookie year. Then I started going 1 full body, then the second one would be half body because it was a little bit cheaper. I was cheap. I didn't understand all of that my rookie year. And then the second year, it was like 2 massages a week, and it stayed like that. And then the last like 3 years, I've been 3 massages a week of just like, now I'm like, man, like I have to put in money to my body to feel well. So is making sure you find a routine and then putting your money in and the effort to try to stay healthy. Like it's not just going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The biggest thing is the investment in yourself. That's what people, I deal with pro guys every day, and some guys will be making a couple $1 million a year, and they wouldn't want to go, let's say they have an achy joint and they don't want to spend 20 grand on something like Regenikime or whatever. You know, it's an investment in yourself. Meantime, the guy's driving a $100,000 car, right? The only way you're driving that car is your body staying healthy. You don't keep your body healthy, you ain't getting that car. You're not making those payments.
that's what a lot of like older people, whether it's a train, like a physical therapist trainer or your strength conditioning, like they'll tell you like, yo, your body is that car. Like you wouldn't take that car to the guy that owns an auto body shop down the street and be like, hey, fix my $300,000 car. So like, don't pull up to just some regular, like fancy little massage place to get a little tiny rub down. And like, don't do that. Like you have to go and invest money. And then I would say, as I've gotten older, one of the biggest things is just training with Mike. Like everything we talk about, everything's about injury prevention. Like one of the first things he says when I come in is like, all right, what hurt this past season? Like, how can we get whatever hurt this past season to feel good going into the season? Because we know when we come back, it's going to hurt again because whatever you did to hurt it in the first place, you're going to go do that again. And then now that I'm getting older, we're probably going to bring in 2 new things at the end of the year too. So that's what's been good for me, is just taking control and understanding what you need to do as a player. As you get older, you can't just rely on just like whatever your team says. Like you have to start to learn and educate yourself and put yourself around people that you know will get you better individually in the off season to stay healthy. Because as you get older, teams aren't out there like, man, how can we keep this 33-year-old out here playing? Like they say that, and like, trust me, they want, if you're a good player, they want to have, like, the goal is not to keep all the older guys and like all that. So like when you see teams with some older guys like myself, my brother, Matthew Slater, like that's because those older guys are making sure that they don't get phased out, because that's what happens in our league. It's a young man's league. The young guy's cheaper, more athletic, usually better injury history. Like the young guy has every advantage. So to be older, you got to be really good. And a part of being really good is staying healthy. So you have to start doing all the little things to invest in your health. Shoot, I started taking supplements. I used to hate taking supplements. I take supplements now. My kids look at all these bottles lined up on the island and like, Daddy, what's that? That's Daddy's medicine. That's what it takes to play football at 32 years old, son. That's what I tell them daily.
3 years ago, he started. 3 years ago, you started taking supplements. I asked him, "Hey, bro, where you going after? What are you doing for your post-workout shake?" Smoothie King.
Smoothie King. You got. I always tell people, you can't. Like me personally, I can't play football and only do like everything that makes me good at football. Like my guy Matt Slater doesn't eat butter. Doesn't eat, like, he's like. I look at him, I'm like, Slate, man, you were like, and he's 35 years old, and he's honestly playing the best football of his career, and it's insane. But like, I'm like, I know why though. Like he's crazy about what he puts in his body, what he needs to do. And like in the off season, sometimes we get in there and work out. Slade will be in the building for 8 hours in the off season, and I'm like, and he knows I'll be the one guy like, Slade, go home, bro, get out of here. But like, that's why he's still so good. Me, I need my cheat stuff. Like I need my ice cream at night, chocolate chip cookies, and my Smoothie King. That's why Smoothie King needs to open up during this pandemic.
Oh, look how
Where
pretty.
You going?
Hello. Yeah.
Look at that hair.
Hello,
yeah, your
beautiful.
hair's not done. Mom's gonna get mad at me. You gotta go brush your teeth, right? Yeah. Okay, you can hang out for a little while.
Uh-oh, we got both of them?
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
Is that your cue? You got to bounce. Time for the naps?
Nah, they'll be all right. We got a little while.
Well, I was gonna ask you. I was gonna say, hey, listen, you've been playing. You mentioned Randy Moss. You mentioned Vince Wilfork. You must have some stories about these guys, but the kids are in the room, so now that went out the window.
But they can't hear. You know what? Those two dudes, man. For one, they're like best friends. Stop. So just me being around them would be just legendary. Like Randy Moss was a guy that anytime you walked in the locker room, you would see like, yo, what are all those people doing over there? And it'd be Randy telling a story. Randy telling some story about his childhood, about his past or whatever. And I still remember Vince used to tell me a story. He's like, man, I go to Cheesecake Factory with Randy. He said, Randy, get in there, and Randy order every appetizer on the menu. And he said the waiter will be like, are you sure? hey man, ain't that what I told you? Yeah, bring all the appetizers. And Vince said, I would think this dude was crazy. And he said, Randy would look at him and be like, bro, I do that because when I was a kid, my mom would be like, hey man, we here, you could get a meal, but you can't get no appetizer. And for him, like, that was an accomplishment, just being able to order every appetizer. And then the waiter would go to take the menu. He said, hey man, I ain't done yet. I got to order my dinner. But that dude, man, like, and still to this day, like, whenever I see him, he would talk about just how much, like, watching me as work ethic. But for me, it was just like watching him. Like, that's what I learned about the NFL. You hear all of these stories. And when I got there, I used to watch it. I'm like, yo, he's smart as, like, he just understood football to another level. Like, if he got me on the line of scrimmage or something, I could ask him, like, yo, what am I doing wrong in press? And he'll break it down exactly what he was reading when I would go cover him. Or, like, I have an easy interception in practice and he wouldn't fully, like, hurt me, but he just tugged me real quick just to let me know, like, I'm not letting you intercept the ball. Like, it was just out of control. And then one of the funnest things hanging with Vince, this dude loves horses. So, like, one time we went down to Florida, we visit a horse farm and everything where they race the horses. And it's about similarities, like how we train and how they train the horses is so similar. Like, they had this, I think it was like $90,000 whirlpool for the horses to put their legs in, and it would be like their cold tub. And we're watching the horses in there. Then, like, 2 days before, they do a small little gallop. Then the day before, they just walk them around the track. And we're just sitting there and we're learning. Then, like, a year and a half later, next thing I know, I own a horse. Me, Vince, and Gerard Mayo own a horse.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we owned a horse.
Those things are expensive.
Vince got us into it. That's why it was all of us. It was all of us that owned the horse. And we actually had another guy who jumped in. And it was fun. Like, the horse actually did all right, and we sold the horse probably about 2 years ago and made a small little profit. So it was fun. Like, right now, Vince probably owns like 5 or 6, maybe more horses. Like, he knows so much about horses. And if you ask him, he considers himself of the horse type of athlete, big, strong, fast. I would just probably say he's probably not that fast, though.
Dev, one interesting thing you were saying about, if you manage to keep your body healthy, you can still compete in this sort of young man sport. I mean, the way I kind of see it is that technically you've never been better at football than you are now because you're just accumulating all of this experience. So, if you could sort of cultivate this also an eye and mind, and you can keep your body going, there is really no reason why you can't just keep going and keep, really playing better and better and better as time goes on.
Exactly. And it's funny. I just signed a 2-year contract. So, like, I feel like my wife says, all right, we get through these 2 years and then, that's it. And like, as I train, I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, if I play well, we can't leave because you can't leave after a good year. So it's funny. But, like, I remember this year we were just talking to Mike, and, he was telling me, I forgot what he read or what he studied. And he was like, they say it takes kind of 10 years to master what you've been taught, and then another 10 years for you to kind of come up with whatever you think, whatever skill it is, or, whatever you're doing, to put how you view it, what is going to be your techniques. That takes another 10 years for you to develop that, and then kind of 10 years to even master that. But in our sport, like, you don't really have that window. And if you shrink it down a little bit, like, my first probably 5 to 8 years, you're kind of learning how to be good in this game. And I would say now it kind of turns and, hey, not so loud. And now, even though I just finished year 10 and going to year 11, it's still a little bit of like, man, like, I really get this. Like, I still can run. I still have some athletic, some of the things that I was gifted at when I first started. But now, like, my mind and my understanding of what I want to do, what the offense is doing, is so much higher that, like, for the rest of the world, it's like, wow, this guy's still playing at a high level. He's 32 years old. And for me, it's just like, yeah, no, I feel great. Like, this game feels a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest thing I would say for me is just I need to see how I feel day after day, week after week, month after, because like I'm starting to still learn, like, all right, this is something I can do, but like, all right, I need to chill out a little bit here. Like I can't train the way or run as many yards as I used to on, let's say, a Wednesday or a third. Like I have to kind of put all that together to make sure I'm full strength by the end of the week when Sunday comes to go out there and play in the games.
For sure, for sure. And then how do you keep your noggin? How do you keep that sort of motivated and fresh, and your mind? How do you keep, you know, yourself hungry, especially after everything you've already done? How do you manage that?
Yeah, man, I would say I kind of just learned that. You know, I would say after 2017, we lose to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And I was kind of shocked at that point. It was just, that was my fourth Super Bowl appearance. You know, we lost that one. I was 2-2 in the Super Bowl. And it was just kind of like, man, this is kind of like, this is getting redundant. You know, the game against Philly, we had a bunch of controversy where Malcolm Butler doesn't play. So now you're answering all these questions. And I was like, man, I'm kind of over all of this. Like, it's like, I don't know if I need a new scenery. Like, is it just football? And I remember, like, kind of when the season first ended, like, man, like, where am I going to get motivation from? It's probably February-ish going into March, like, just wondering, like, how this season's going to go. Like, I'm kind of over it. And J-Mac gets traded to our team. And I would say, like, that was like, wow, all right, twin brother on the team. I was so locked in, like, bro, I got to win a Super Bowl with my brother. Like, he's experienced the Super Bowl through my lenses. Like, he's been everything that helped me in Super Bowls, handle my family, like, he would handle so much. And I still remember when we won my first one in 14, everybody's on the field. I'm looking for my family. The first person I see, like, through a crowd of people is J-Mac smiling, like, ear to ear, and we just run and we hug. And I'm like, this was my new motivation. Like, how can we get to the Super Bowl with him? And I remember that 18 season of, like, just being so determined, but in the back of my mind, like, damn, I've already had so much success in going to Super Bowls and winning. Like, what if now this is the time, like, this thing starts to go downhill? And sure enough, like, Jay, first game of the year, only plays like 5 plays. And I'm like, damn, this is not like how we kind of pictured this year. We end up losing 5 games that year, which is crazy. That's the most games I've ever lost in a season. Was 5 games going 11-5. And I remember entering the playoffs like, man, this is going to be tough to try to win this Super Bowl. And we do it. We win a Super Bowl. And that's when I realized, like, man, like, I still love this game. Because, like, I cared about winning it for myself, but just to watch our family go crazy, him, like, they missed that field goal on the sideline. Everybody's rushing the field. And this dude's just down on one knee. First time in the playoffs, goes all the way and wins the Super Bowl. And now you fast forward going into year 11, we lose the greatest player probably in football, greatest Patriot of all time. And now you have a brand new challenge. So that's what's motivating now. I think that challenge, and then what I'm always motivated by is to have an impact on all the new guys that come in the league. Like I just told you, the Kevin Fox, the Vince Wilforks, the James Sanders, like those guys who took time to invest in my career made a huge difference. So, like, I want to always do that while I'm playing, of being able to pass that down to the next wave of guys that, you know, someday I'll pass that down when I'm old and I'm, you know, calling all my former coaches like, hey, man, I want to bring my kids and look cool. Let me come to training camp. When I'm doing that, and, you know, I'll get to see some of these guys as like 10-year vets leading their group will be pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
yeah. And that's like a perfect segue. If you got time still?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect segue to go into everything that Devin and Jason do now to help out the community, to help out everyone else in every possible way that they can. I mean, they tell us about sickle cell. Tell us about tackle sickle cell. Give us some information about that.
Yeah, man, I truly believe, like you just said, we started off this conversation, like in my environment, how I grew up, like the likelihood of making it professionally is already hard. And then in that and trying, single mom, no dad is even harder. So I just feel like I've always felt like a lot of what's happened to me is almost like a miracle. So I feel like I've just been blessed so much that I always feel like don't let those blessings stop, with just me, like pass it on. And sickle cell disease is something that has been prevalent in my family for years. My grandfather has sickle cell disease. My aunt and uncle both have the disease. My aunt passed away last year. And as I was after my second year in the NFL, I was like, man, I got to do something to give back. And we started Tackle Sickle Cell to raise awareness and money for the sickle cell disease. It affects predominantly, minorities, predominantly African Americans. And it was a disease that not many people know about. Like you say sickle cell disease, and people are like, oh, I think I heard of that. Like, so-and-so had that, right? But no one like really knows, much about it. And I've even educated myself, it's a hereditary disease passed down. And because of that is why it was so taboo for years, because parents felt like they had so much guilt. Because a lot of times, it takes two parents to have the disease, or one parent to have it and one to have the trait. And, like once you hear that news, and it's kind of like, well, if we just knew, we would know it's not a great match for having kids. But a lot of people, they just didn't know. And what happens is your red blood cells become like in a half moon shape, which they call sickle. And as they travel through your body, they're usually oval shape, and they kind of bounce off each other and they flow very easily. But when they're sickle, they start to hook on each other and they create blockages. So then oxygen can't pass through, and that's what you call a crisis. And, a sickle cell patient can be sitting here talking to you and a crisis break out, and let's say it's their leg. They just get sharp pain in their leg, and there's nothing they can do about it. So it's very humbling to hear some of the stories and to see what people go through, how tough it is. We had a young dude that was in high school, Elijah, pass away a couple months ago from the sickle cell disease, which on a good thing, it doesn't happen as often as it used to happen, but the disease is still deadly. So we've done a ton of work. We've grown this, we do it here in New Jersey, do a sickle cell walk in Jersey City usually. We've raised a ton of money in Boston. So it's been awesome just to be a part of it. We have a lot of great people that invest time and money into it, and it's grown a lot. So that's probably one of the things I'm most proud about.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So go
sorry,
on, Brooker. No, go.
No, I was sorry, Mike. Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, when you sort of Google you and your brother, you can see so many different, charitable projects you've done, and especially recently, providing a lot of Chromebooks to the people in Ramapo area, I think it was, or close by to there. What's some of the accomplishments that most people don't know about you that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I would say that, starting at Chromebooks for kids where we grew up. It's in Rockland County where we grew up, in Ramapo High School, Spring Valley, and Nye. Those school districts, helping them out, that's something I'm extremely proud about. Getting into the Rutgers Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame, which has nothing to do with athletics, just alumni who have done great things in the community, of giving back. And then I would say one of the other things is just being a father and a husband. That's probably the hardest thing that I do from a day-to-day standpoint, of just doing that and trying to be good at it. I would say it's something I'm really proud of. And, I think one of the things that's always stuck out to me, we were very fortunate as a team to hear Kobe Bryant speak. I think that was 2 years ago. And that's what he talked about. He talked about he was so tired of everybody talking about 20 years he had in the NBA and how great it was. He said, because what I do next, people will be shocked by. And you could tell like he was so proud of what he had, winning a Grammy for what he did. I mean, winning an Oscar for his short story on basketball that he wrote, and being a father, starting the Mamba Academy for young kids, and all he was doing for women's basketball. So like I kind of think of my life like that. Like you talk about legacy, will be what these little ones become, and a lot about what we do after football to continue to try to be great, you know, football wise, winning Super Bowls, stats and all. Like somebody else is going to come and do that. But like what you do with that platform, to me is what really creates a great legacy.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Very cool.
Yeah, bro. Way deep. D-Mac he's class act. I can't say anything better than that about him, man. He's a total
Appreciate
class
that.
act. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, really.
But you got any more questions for him?
I mean, if you got time, Devin, I mean, I know you said that your kids need to go for their nap.
Yeah, what you got left?
I got one little one for you. I'm actually, I'm going to be expecting a child end of October. And,
congrats,
you know,
man.
thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. And hearing your story of you coming up without a dad, stuff like that, I mean, you must have a completely different perspective on fatherhood and the whole journey that you're going through. I mean, what's a little bit of advice you might have, and what sort of values are you trying to really instill in your children? Because, you know, I think that's probably the distinguishing factor with you and your brother is the values that you have had with each other growing up through all the adversity that you've gone through. I mean, what's the sort of thing you're trying to instill into your children?
Yeah, man, I would say one of the things that I always wanted to do, even when I was young, was be a dad. I remember growing up, like I was a huge basketball fan and seeing like all these different players. I remember Dennis Scott played on the Magic, and he had this huge tattoo of his dad's face, and it was like his dad passed away. And like that was a reminder, like why he was playing basketball, why he was doing things. And I remember always growing up, like, man, like one day I'm gonna be a dad, and like that's what I'll be the best at. Like, and I always tell my wife, I joke around, I'm like, you think I'm good at football? Like, you don't understand. The best thing I'm good at is being a dad. Like that's what I enjoy. And I think the one thing that I've always thought to pass down to them is just being themselves. And this pandemic is tough. Like the one thing you have to learn before anything is patience. Like with kids, especially when they're trapped inside, like your patience is tested. But I've always thought of myself of like, why I am who I am is because like I'm comfortable with whoever I am. Like whether that makes you happy, mad, whether you love me, you hate me, I'm comfortable with whatever that outcome is for you. And I want to pass that down to them. You know, I think for them it'd be a lot different than how I grew up. You know, I grew up with the only thing me thinking about was coming from humble beginnings and doing something big and making it big and wanting to buy my mom a house and doing all these things where they won't have that, but they'll have, you know, especially my son will have the, oh man, you're gonna play football like your dad. And if he does play sports, people will be like, man, or is he as good as, like they'll always have that pressure. And that's why I always want them to know, like, there's no pressure as long as you're comfortable, as long as you know who you are, what you want to do in life. You have to find that and you have to enjoy that process. And I want them to eventually someday look at me as a friend, like how I call my mom all the time and can just talk to her. That's what I want for them. And I think that's all a part of the process. So I love to take them with me to places where I'm giving back and doing things in community. I want them to see, I want them to have the, like you just spoke about, you know, I feel like I grew up with the right values and morals. And I want them to have that before anything else in this world.
Wow. Fantastic, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Right
man.
on.
I say it all the time, man. Being a dad, first of all, is just sacrificing and giving of yourself. Everything else you kind of learn, you learn on the job. Right?
Yeah. Right on, D-Mac. Dude, thank you so much for hopping on this. We really appreciate it.
Nah, no problem, man. I had fun. I love doing podcasts. I'll be doing my podcast tonight.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Yep.
That's right. And then we got to watch the Jordan. So you got to make sure you end it. You got to end it by 9.
Oh yeah, I moved up the time. We used to start at 8:30. I moved it up to 8 to make sure we finished by 9. And it's the last one, so don't be mad if I'm a little sluggish tomorrow. I might have to fully engage and enjoy this. Might have to pour me a glass of tequila or something.
Dude, I was thinking this. That's what I did about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I had my first scotch in a while. It was to the Jordan. I may do the same exact thing.
We got to give Jordan his right send-off on his last 10 episode.
Right on, man. Dude, thank you again. We appreciate you. You're the man. And I'll see you tomorrow.
No problem, man. Y'all
Thank you,
keep
Devin.
doing what you're doing, man. This is awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thanks,
All right,
Devin, man. What a pleasure.
All right, Brooker. Good luck, man. Fatherhood
Cheers, buddy.
suits you well, bro.
Thanks, buddy.
Catch you, man.
All right, have a good one.